What happens when a prince who once had everything is finally left with nothing but silence? Behind the locked gates of Royal Lodge, a chapter of royal history is coming to a quiet. It's unsettling and damned. Almost no one saw it ending this way. For the first time in nearly 2 decades. Prince Andrew is preparing to leave the only home that has anchored his life since the fall from grace began. And perhaps even more shocking than the move itself is who will not be walking out beside him. Sarah Ferguson, the woman who stood by him through scandal, humiliation, and exile, is finally stepping away. The happiest divorced couple in the world is no longer sharing a roof, a routine, or a future. Welcome back, and thank you for joining us for this deep dive into one of the most emotionally charged shifts inside the British royal family in years. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the stories shaping the monarchy today. This isn't just about a change of address. It's about the collapse of an era that survived against all odds until now. For nearly 20 years, Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson defied every expectation of royal divorce. Though legally separated, they lived together, raised their daughters together, and presented a united front inside the sprawling 30-room Royal Lodge, tucked deep within Windsor Great Park. While other royal marriages fractured and disappeared from public view, Andrew and Sarah remained side by side, weathering storms that would have broken most couples. But that sanctuary is now being dismantled. Sources close to the family say Prince Andrew is preparing to vacate Royal Lodge within weeks. And the most telling detail of all is that Sarah Ferguson will not be moving with him. Their shared life, once seen as unbreakable, has finally reached its limit. Royal Lodge is more than just a house. It's a symbol of royal privilege, history, and protection. Once home to the Queen Mother herself, the estate sits on nearly 100 acres of private land. For Andrew, living there was a statement, a reminder that no matter what happened, he still belonged at the heart of the monarchy. But the shadow of his association with Jeffrey Epstein never faded. After losing his military titles, royal patronages, and public role, pressure quietly built behind palace walls. Under King Charles III, the monarchy has entered a new era, leaner, less forgiving, far more sensitive to public perception. Andrew was told long ago that Royal Lodge could not remain his forever. What changed was the timeline. According to insiders, the king's patience has finally run out. Andrew, once resistant and defiant, has now accepted the inevitable. One longtime friend says he has realized he must move on and start over, though what that fresh start looks like is far from glamorous. By the end of this month, or shortly before his birthday in February, Andrew is expected to relocate to Marsh Farm on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk. It's a dramatic downgrade. While Sandringham itself is prestigious, Marsh Farm is modest under renovation and a world away from the grandeur of Windsor. And while Andrew heads to the windswept quiet of Norfolk, Sarah Ferguson is choosing a different path. For the first time in 20 years, they will live separately. For decades, they were a team, unconventional but loyal. Sarah defended Andrew when few others would. She stood by him through financial disasters, public ridicule, and social exile. But now, as the weight of legal fallout and royal restructuring grows heavier, it appears Sarah is stepping onto a lifeboat of her own making, and that's where the whispers begin. In recent years, Sarah Ferguson has undergone a remarkable reinvention. Once mocked relentlessly by tabloids, she has rebuilt herself as a successful author, media personality, and advocate. Her battles with breast cancer and later skin cancer earned her widespread sympathy and gave her a renewed sense of purpose. She is no longer simply Andrew's ex-wife. She is a brand, a survivor. Insiders suggest her decision to live separately is not emotional abandonment, but strategic survival. As her television appearances increase and her books continue to sell, Andrew's damaged reputation has become a liability she can no longer afford. While she remains devoted to him as the father of her children, she understands that her future depends on distance. Under Queen Elizabeth II, Andrew was protected. Under King Charles III, that protection no longer exists. The contrast between their futures could not be sharper. Sarah is reportedly moving toward luxury and independence, including time spent at a high-end Mayfair property, reflecting her financial recovery. Andrew, meanwhile, is heading toward isolation. Marsh Farm, according to those familiar with it, is still a work in progress. Smaller, plainer, less comfortable. Winter weather has not slowed renovations, but it remains far from the life Andrew once knew. One source described it bluntly, compared to Royal Lodge. Such a cottage next to a castle. And then there's the loneliness. Once a naval hero. Once the Queen's favorite son. Once a permanent figure at the center of royal life. Andrew is now facing a reality defined by absence. No grand halls. No daily companionship. No illusion of status. At Royal Lodge, he lived surrounded by portraits, medals, and memories. At Marsh Farm, he will face quiet rooms, fresh paint, and the howling Norfolk wind, dash alone, except for shared moments with their daughters and grandchildren. Andrew and Sarah are expected to live entirely separate lives. This marks the collapse of what many believed was the most civilized model of royal divorce of friendship that survived everything until external pressure and internal ambition finally tore it apart. King Charles's decision sends a clear message. The soft approach is over. Royal properties are for working royals, not disgraced figures living in isolation at public expense. Royal Lodge is reportedly being considered for the Prince and Princess of Wales and their children's space and security for the future of the crown. For Andrew, this move feels like exile. The timing just before his birthday adds a painful emotional layer. What should be a moment of reflection and celebration will instead be marked by boxes, goodbyes, and the realization that his place in the royal core is permanently gone. From Sarah's perspective, the question of betrayal is far more complicated. Is it betrayal to protect the life you rebuilt? Or is it survival? At 64, Sarah Ferguson is thinking about legacy. She wants to be remembered for resilience, not ruin. By stepping away, she reclaims her identity not as a shield for Andrew, but as Sarah Ferguson in her own right. For Andrew, however, her departure may be the final blow. He has lost his parents, his career, his standing, his home. And now the woman who remained by his side when everyone else disappeared? The move to Marsh Farm is more than relocation. It's a physical symbol of his shrinking world, and as the gates of Royal Lodge close, the image that lingers is haunting a fallen prince retreating into the countryside, and a woman stepping back into the light. So now we ask you, is Sarah Ferguson right to distance herself to protect her future? Or is this a betrayal of a man who stood by her for decades? And was King Charles justified in forcing this move? Or has he gone too far? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this deep dive insightful, give the video a thumbs up and share it with fellow royal watchers. Your support helps us bring you thoughtful, detailed analysis on the stories that continue to reshape the monarchy. Thank you for spending your time with us today.